Okay, now my fellow Americans, we have the third little video under the area of planet awareness, and the heading on this one is Population Relocation Advanced Planning. Now what's that mean? Well, I guess simply stated, if we go back to those numbers I had about the Maryland scientific forecast, by 2050 the water level around the ocean here will be up over 2 feet. Okay, and by 2100 it'll be up by over 5.5 feet. And again, when they put those numbers out, they're being conservative, right? Now, in order to deal with that, eventually we are going to have to move people at least from the coast, right? And we've heard about this, we hear little rumors about this or comments from scientists or whatever, and we go, yeah, okay, good, we got to do that. So what that really means is we have tens of millions of people that will eventually need to be moved back from the ocean, from Maine down to the tip of Florida, across to over to Texas, and then on the west coast. Okay, this will have to be done, and it won't be pretty, it won't be friendly, and we're going to have to do it. So we're going to have to start looking at this as in an advanced planning mode, right? Not only by state, but by community, okay? Here in Maryland, of course, we have to look at the Eastern Shore, what we call the Eastern Shore here, just the Chesapeake Bay region, and along the ocean. We have a lot of exposure. Maryland's nickname over the years has been called America in miniature because we start at the ocean and we go out to the mountains in western Maryland. Of course, that's what we in the east call mountains. In the west, they have real mountains, but it's all relative. So what we're going to have to do is look at things like if you go through some of those climate videos that are credible, that are well done, and not just somebody going crazy on everything. One of the biggest areas that we're going to have to look at is first is New Orleans. Okay, the marshland down there, the bottom of New Orleans isn't beach; it's marsh, it's mud. All right, and that's slowly coming up. And the people that are native to that area have lived there, and I've talked with them. I lived down there from October of '08 through about November of 2011, and I was down in that area, and people told me they've swum in their neighborhoods, right? Since they were kids. Rain comes up, and they actually swim in the streets down there, and it's only getting worse. So that's one of the first areas that's going to have to be moved, and eventually it's going to be involuntarily moving them. Now, another area that comes to mind is if you remember Hurricane Sandy, there was one neighborhood whose name escapes me right now, I'm sorry, in northern New Jersey, New York area, that was a square mile, right? And that entire community flooded tremendously because the entire community was built below sea level. An example, so of course we had Hurricane Sandy, those homes are being rebuilt now, and the question is going to be things like, well, at what point in time do we quit rebuilding? Okay, and at what point in time do we work with the insurance companies and we say, okay, now the next time this happens to that degree, which could happen anytime, and we all know that now. Again, I'm filming this the same night that Hurricane Matthew is crushing into Georgia and South Carolina, North Carolina, heading towards Hilton Head. Okay, so at some point in time, the insurance companies are probably the ones that are going to drive this, and I wouldn't be surprised if they already have these areas mapped out. They don't tell us everything, but it's their job to do advanced planning, right? They're actuarials, right? And at some point in time, we're going to say, okay, folks, we're not rebuilding your house in that area. We're not going to give you that credit for it, insurance for it. We're going to relocate you. So one thing I want to say right now in this little video is that I believe that before too long, let's say, looking back, let's say December 31st, 2016, we technically freeze all property values, homes, businesses, land, right? Coast to coast, north to south, right? Because eventually, as this happens over the next decades, and some of us won't be here anymore when this really gets ugly, But people will say, "Oh, I'm going to go buy land out there, so when we have to, build cities and whole communities out there, I'm going to cash in on it." This will be fairly easy to take care of if we do it ahead of time. So we're not going to individual groups. We may start a company or an association that will start this planning among the public, right? But this is what's going to have to happen. And again, this ties into the idea, well, of having all these, like in the earlier one of these proposal clips, I talked about the need to build recycling centers all over the country, at least one for every U.S. district, and probably more than that. And you imagine all the terrible destruction that's being done along the Florida and the coast down there, all the way up to North Carolina, all the destruction, all the rubble, good word, that will be created, and all that could be hauled off, everything lock, stock, and barrel to recycling centers. Then we can take all that and reprocess it and turn it into building materials and product raw materials. Metal, glass. I mean, one of the worst things that we put in the ground is metal. To put refined metal into the ground is terrible. We have to stop doing that just for the fact that we need that material not to go in the ground. So that's really the essence of what I wanted to say about this. And we can't approach this, we can't back into this situation, right? We have to be upfront about it. And it's really tragic because I don't know if you're familiar with it, but I'm a Cape Hatteras fanatic. Kitty Hawk, Cape Hatteras. Kitty Hawk's where the Rice brothers flew. Cape Hatteras is on an island which is connected to the mainland by a bridge. And you go across that bridge at a place called Oregon Inlet. You travel down the Hatteras Island to Hatteras town. Put your car in a van or whatever on a little boat, and you take a half-hour ride over to Ocracoke Island. Ocracoke Island's been slowly getting cut off by rain, by floods. You have to rebuild the roads, move them higher. But eventually these things aren't going to work, and we're going to have to give them up, which is tragic. If you're a beach lover like I am, it's tragic, but this is coming, and we have to approach it like with reality and like adults, right? Protect the people that are there, have them get out before they're really in big trouble. But storms like Matthew that are coming up the coast are not, I don't think, are going to be rare. All right, so oceans warm, these things are going to happen, and we're going to have to plan for it. We're going to have to build entire cities inland, higher ground, all along the coast. All right, and that's going to limit in some cases farmland to a point. Again, when that ripples back to fracking. Where are we fracking? Where can we build communities? Where can we have water? So these are things that are a little bit futuristic, or futurist type thinking, but it's what we have to do, because we're not talking about us, depending on your age. The baby boomers, for the most part, are going to be gone in the 2040s, right? And our children will be there into the 2060s and 70s, all right? And then their children are going to bear the brunt of all this, and we have to start thinking about that and acting on it. And we're going to have to take over. Really, we're going to have to execute one of my proposals in the plan, where we actually take oil, coal, and gas industries over into a non-profit organization type. So we still have them operating, doing their job, paying their employees, but their drive is not going to be for stockholders. It's going to be for helping the planet, all right, and not doing everything they can to destroy it, even if they say it's not their responsibility. Well, it's their kids too. You wonder sometimes why people do these things. I think I've talked about that a bit, and you get the idea. So that's a biggie, population relocation. So I thank you for your time, and this wraps up number 3 on climate awareness. And the last set I'm going to do is 5 videos on international issues, and this really gets into some tough stuff. So let's get into that, and thank you, and take care, as always.